Welcome to the Conversations with Rainforest Engineers podcast, India's first podcast for and by civil engineers. Join us on our journey to simplify and bring you experiences straight from the industry. This is your host Padmadev Joshi along with the co-host Gokulji Kumar and E.S. Krishnaram. So let's jump right into it. Greetings everyone. Today we want to highlight something important, something every one of us must be proud of, but with a little concern. Yes, we are talking about our construction industry. Isn't it a backbone for an economy which is creating lots of jobs, providing better infrastructure, making our environment safe for the future generations? Just to name few good projects in India, we have Panjal Rail Tunnel in Jammu and Kashmir, a 12-kilometer long tunnel where for the first time NATM method was used. We also have Matri Mandir down south in Auroville. It took nearly 37 years to complete the entire structure, including the initial stage works. And not to forget about the solar power project in Gujarat, which is one of the second largest projects and Asia's largest solar park. But aren't we missing something here? Who works on the entire ecosystem? Aren't the workers, our laborers, the backbone of the system, right? So today, we are talking about something very important. Despite increasing opportunities and more projects coming in, still we see there is no certain scale up in terms of labor welfare or in terms of more opportunities to them. So, on the occasions of Engineers Day, we at SEPT have a legacy of working on socio-economic aspects related to construction industry. We have diversified teams working on different projects and different aspects to identify pain points in the market and then come up with the deal breakers to address those concerns. This year, students are keen to learn and understand measures that need to be taken as part of the labor welfare. Today, we have AK team representative from Faculty of Technology, SEPT University. Ms. Khushi Shah and Ms. Pooja Gandhi for a discussion. So, Khushi, would you like to introduce this year's theme? What all works are going on right now?
Yeah, sure. Hi. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm so glad to be here. I'm Khushi Shah and I'm currently in the final year of Faculty of Technology, SEPT University.
Hi everyone, I'm Urja Gandhi and I'm also a final year student from the Faculty of Technology at SEPT University. So, coming to the topic at hand, like PD introduced his topic, every year we celebrate Engineers Day as a tribute to Sir M. Visvesvaraya. He was known as the father of modern Mysore due to his immense contribution to society. He has also received India's highest civilian honor, that is the Bharat Ratna, for his numerous industrial, economic, and social projects.
Basically, Engineers Day is our flagship students event. Every year, the student body at FT takes up a significant social or environmental issue. The idea and concept behind this is to contribute this knowledge that we have gained as a student for the betterment of the society. We also conduct awareness raising events in form of nukkad nataks and flash mobs in different parts of the city Ahmedabad to spread awareness about the said topic.
One of the major parts of the event is the academic research that we carry out on this chosen issue to provide some value addition to the existing literature and research. Labor welfare on construction site. The topic for this year's celebration that we have selected is strengthening the unorganized sector, labor welfare on construction site.
That's good to know that a lot of work has been taken care by the students. So now coming to the topic. So by far we all have understood that pandemic has taken a great toll on the construction industry and it has been affected on the entire supply chain, not only the top management but also the lower management people working here. So if I look at the past year topics, mostly we have tried to cover aspects related to sustainability or related to climate related things. But this time we are going right into the market, right into the construction industry. So what exactly you mean by labor welfare? Are we not yet concerned to address them as a labor and not as a workman? What is your take on that?
Thanks, PD, for asking such an important question and giving a great insight into the construction industry and the topics that we've selected for the previous years. So basically, labor welfare means that you take care of the workers that are employed at site by the contractor or the client, irrespective of the type of the project. It will include provision of amenities that go beyond the scope of normal wages so that you can boost the laborers' morale and motivate them as employees. It also includes the provision of social security, health plans, awareness of safety measures, and etc. The basic idea here that we're trying to promote is to empathize with the laborers and to create better working conditions for them.
I would also like to address the point, a very good point that PDU made, that why are we still talking in the sense of laborers and not treating them as a workman or workwoman? I think that is very important and we should look into that. I think what you raised, question that you raised, PD, was very interesting. As in, why do we call them laborers and not workmen? We as engineers need to change the mentality of this, of treating them as mere laborers, because they are the employees of us, and we need to realize their importance. And if once it is clear to us that they are also our employees, and once we start treating them as employees, labor welfare will automatically come into the picture.
Yes, great way to look at it. We should consider them as an employer. So once you start taking care of their personal needs, the way you are taking care of your employees, things will fall in place. But when you mention about aspects related to health, awareness related to social events happening around the globe, why you think we still need to enforce those things? Shouldn't that be part of it as a process itself?
I agree. You know, the most popular question around the labor welfare is, why is it that important? I personally think that that question can be answered in two main categories. One is understanding the concept of labor welfare in a general sense, and second is identifying the importance of labor welfare in context of India. In a general sense, as Urja mentioned, labor satisfaction involves taking various welfare measures in order to encourage better efficiency by the employers. Nowadays, we see there's a lot of chaos in certain industries because of the changing expectation of the laborers. So the basic purpose of labor welfare is to keep them happy and satisfied. Labor welfare is more or less associated with basic human rights. You know, when we talk about our construction industry, we pay an immense amount of details and money on infrastructure development or technological development and more efficient models to get the work done. But what we subtly forget is none of that matters if we don't have human resource to do the task. Laborers, as you mentioned, are the backbone of our industry. Without them, it is impossible to complete any project. And it is due time we realize that and make our site working conditions more human and not exploit the human resource. Like I mentioned earlier, it basically comes down to the provision of basic human rights. And even though they are a crucial part of any successful project, they are still highly exploited. Secondly, welfare also helps keep the self esteem, confidence, and inspiration of the workers high, and hence it directly impacts the productivity of the worker, because at the end of the day a worker is the person who delivers the final outcome. So labor welfare in a general concept is the key to smooth industrial relations. Now, if we are talking it about in the context of India, why do you think labor welfare is important in India? Then if you look at the census of 2011, you'll notice that there is a mere 15% of the national migrant labor population. Despite the digitalization of beneficial identities, it appears that migrant workers still lose a tangible access to their social safety nets when they move out of their villages or cross state boundaries. And we are all aware that in our construction industry, in most of the projects, the workers have migrated from different states of the country.
Okay, so you guys are talking about the migrant labors, right? So during this pandemic, we observed that more than 60% of them had to travel back home because of lack of opportunities in the urban areas. That was one of the saddest part we observed. If you look at our theoretical knowledge, we always known this that there are separate management and contingency reserved only been categorized for these people, for their welfare, for the betterment of these people, right? So where all this fund went during the pandemic, where the entire system failed, I think that is the most important aspect we should look for as part of this E-Day celebration, right? So what do you think affected the most to the organization and also to the labor welfare?
You know, I agree with your point that this pandemic has affected the labor's market a lot. For India, as per one report of International Labour Organization and Asian Development Bank, estimates job loss for 4.1 million youth, and construction and agriculture section have witnessed the major job losses. But if you look about it from an wholesale perspective, the fact is Even before the COVID-19 crisis, the labor market in India faced severe challenges, which resulted into high rate of unemployment and large shares of youth excluded from both school and work. As per Sarah Elder, the head of International Labour Organization, the pre-crisis challenges for youth are now simply amplified because of the COVID. If sufficient attention is not paid to the matter, there is a risk that a lockdown generation will have to face and the weight of the crisis for many and many years to come.
So I'm not sure if you have taken this elective or not, but back in my UG days, I have taken this elective. It was more about contracts management, and the faculty was working on projects as well. So he has this habit to work with the general contractors in Gujarat region specifically. Whenever he goes on a site, whenever he takes a new project, first he aims to construct a school for people working on the construction site and for the kids. It gives a sense of connectivity with the people who are working, and it also makes them secure that no, we are not only doing something for a company, but they are also giving us back in terms of knowledge or in terms of sharing. So I think even catering these people to learn new skills is also a good thing to do. And why some people restrain from accepting the aspect that there can be a lot more than only letting these people do hands-on things. They can even learn the technology and use it very effectively. So what do you think about that?
What I'd
I
like to add along with PD is, I mean, I totally relate to not entirely relate, but I would say I like the idea of, and I also believe that labor welfare should not only be constricted to the person working at the site. Like, I also believe that labor welfare should also extend to his families. Like you said, he was working with schools and all. I feel like that is also an additional amenity or facility that I believe should be provided along with at least basic amenities should be provided for the employees so that at least the generation that goes beyond him can advance.
and I agree, even at CEPT we started this thing when the construction of library and other departments was going on CEPT. The students of Faculty of Technology I think last to last year, as a part of Engineers Day celebrations initiative, we started a initiative called Helping Hands, in which we, the students of FT, committed ourselves that every weekend, once, either Saturday or Sunday, we would go to the labor colony, and the facility of school was already provided there, and there was a faculty who would take care of the kids and teach them, and we all were trying to teach them different skills or make learning more fun. And I think this should be a common practice that should be implemented everywhere, because at the end of the day, if we don't educate the kids, it doesn't go beyond the generation.
I think that is a very interesting initiative, and people at SEP can surely take it forward and make it a habit to do every year's Engineers Day celebration. I think that would be really nice to see. So now coming to the next segment, the way we treat our laborers is quite unorganized. The way we deal with them, it is very poorly maintained. What should be the game plan to take it further? Do we have anything to take this thing in a better way?
Yes, I agree that our construction industry is one of the most unorganized sector of India. I was going through some of the statistics to understand the labor problems in detail. So I found that out of the entire workforce that contributes to the construction industry, there are only 24% of the regular waged salary workers, which means that only 24% of the people receive a salary on a regular basis and not on the basis of daily or periodic renewal of a work contract. And even though they are better off than casual workers, even then, these 24% do not have the social security benefits or secure job contracts. Only 4.2% of the total workforce, as per the statistics of 2018 and 19, had jobs that offered them the maximum possible protection that would fit the criteria of what we term as a good job or a decent work as per the International Labour Organization. And it is really sad to see that, because our construction industry plays a very big part in the GDP of our country. So we really need to start taking steps to strengthen the labor department.
So I feel Khushi that you told us a really staggering set of statistics. Like you had mentioned, only 24% of the workforce is salaried. It was already harsh before COVID-19, and now I feel like it has post COVID-19, the impact is harshened on the laborers. Like during after the pandemic, we've seen that new policies of social distancing have been adopted, which I feel like in turn has adversely impacted the productivity of the construction industry, because since you have to socially distance on site, that means that less laborers have to be are to be available on site. And since laborers are a critical source of employment for the construction industry, this is I feel very sad statistic for the uneducated workforce in India, because I feel like for instance, only 90% of the workers in the construction industry have secondary education or even lower, and 80% of these workers are casually employed, which means that, and since they don't have secure job benefits, they can be like fired easily.
I totally agree, Usha. And to come to the point that PD raised, that what is the reason for this and how can we tackle that? I think first and primarily, we need to understand why this happens. I mean, I don't think anybody really wants to provide lower facilities to any other human being. But personally, I think the main reason for the lack of facilities of labor is the selection process of the contractors, because we are aware that there is a very high level of competition in the construction industry. So most of the time what we see is that the contractor that bids the lowest amount is awarded with the tender. More often than not, the client usually provides a list of selected companies for material procurement so that the quality of construction is not compromised. This means that the only way a contractor can afford the lower prices is by compromising on the cost of labor, which is why the wages are often kept bare minimum and better facilities are not provided to them, especially when we see these things in a small scale project.
I have a different perspective to highlight over here. It is not always about being a lowest bidder or quoting a lowest bid for taking any government projects, but it is about how you treat your employees, how you treat your laborers, right? So if I take an example from one of our students as well, he's working on small scale projects, mostly related to government projects or related to housing projects. But when you look at the labor colony on his site, it looks fabulous. It's clean. They have hygiene facilities there. They have garden. They have kitchen facilities there. They also provide ration, and on the tops they have paka houses to live. And during the pandemic, they just didn't kick out those people, but they try to look for the alternative jobs. Either they can work in some factories, or can they do some another alternative work by the time the construction industry can get back to the normal pace. So I think there are alternatives, but we need dreamers, we need good entrepreneurs to look at it. So I think it is more on the engineers, it is more on the professionals who are working on the site than on the top management, because ultimately it is in our hands to look at the project and how we manage the funds, right?
What I'm trying to say is, according to PD's example, I think more related to the effort that the contractor and the client decides to put in for the laborers that are employed on his side.
Yeah, I think it is, our moral responsibility as an engineer to understand the value of life and ethics associated with our industry. I think I would also like to raise another point related to points that PD mentioned, that the client provided very good site conditions. Uja, can you elaborate on what would be the implications of, if the site is not properly facilitated? I mentioned especially in the small scale projects. It is very good to see that some small scale projects are actually doing a good job when it comes to providing labor amenities and labor colonies. In my personal experience, in my project training, the labor facilities was very good. I had the chance to visit the labor colony, and it was really well hygiene, and the labor canteen was also very clean, and the quality of the food was very good as well. But while I was working on the site during my field studies, those were very low scale projects. The field studies one, I had a bungalow scheme, and in the field studies too, I went to a seven-story building, high-rise building. In those sites, I saw that the labor colony was it wasn't even a labor colony, there was just a barren land, and there was this kacha houses which were made from sheets of tin, and like 8 to 10 people were living in a small area of like 3 to 4 meter square area, which is very congested. So even there was no permanent water facility for them, and there were no canteen facilities. I think these are some of the basic necessities that should be provided to the laborers, and all of these do play a very significant role in the health and well-being of the laborers. If they are not well, if the hygiene is not maintained and they fall sick, that is ultimately going to affect the productivity of the project.
Like you mentioned, even during my project training side, I had seen that the laborers were provided with, because it was a large scale infrastructure project. The laborers were provided with good accommodation. They had good to and fro transport facilities right from their labor colony to even where they were working. So when it comes to large scale projects, I feel like they've been taken care of. But when it comes to smaller projects, I feel like the contractors and clients neglect the basic things that they're supposed to provide to all these people, and it's frankly very sad to see.
So if we try to summarize all these things, you might have heard that few of the clients and few of the contractors are now coming up with their own set amount of benchmarks, how labor infrastructure should be there on the site and also at the colony, right? So if you want to consider this as part of the study, and if you want to suggest some sort of amendments in the contractual document itself, so how do you think we can take it forward?
I guess I will like to add a point here that yes, I completely agree with what you said, that there are enough labor provisions and labor laws, but some of the time we see that that is not implemented on site. So I think while we were doing the literature study as a CAT team, we observed one thing, that we were going through the eligibility criteria for the consultants and contractors, and there's a very in detail depth of how you consider whether the contractor or consultant is eligible for the project. Eligibility criteria did not take in the consideration labor history of the contractor or consultant. As in, if we talk about a contractor, if a if XYZ contractor wins the bid, there is no criteria that shows that how many laborers were previously associated with them, how many laborers have been working with him or her since a long time, or how many fatalities took place on his site, and were those accidents compensated by the contractor. So if we add these kind of conditions to the eligibility, I think it would improve the quality of labor welfare on site.
I think I agree with you. Like, generally, we see that during projects, we always check the eligibility related to the quality and the cost of how also the previous experience of the consultant and the contractor. But while when we hire a labor contractor, we are never we don't take the liberty to check out what his experience with previous laborers have been, or how he has hired, or how he has taken care of the laborers that he has hired. Like, there is no evaluation related to how many, if there was, if any hazardous materials were taken care of on site, or if if the labor contractor himself has a safety evaluation outline plan or anything like that. Like, I feel like, if, like Khushi said, if there was an evaluation criteria that was provided to the labor contractors, labor welfare on smaller scale projects would increase exponentially.
Yeah, like if there was a record of the safety blunders or labor blunders done by the contractor, then, and if those kind of contractors are not hired, then it would definitely raise a better standard for the project.
True. So what you guys are talking about is to involve more people-centered design when we are talking about employees or laborers, right? If you look at prime contractors, they already have such framework. Subcontractors or even the performance of the laborers, they even have incentive schemes given to the each workman or the entire gang based on their performance. Such initiatives can always help them to motivate and be in your team basically to work for you for a longer period of time. But with the growing urbanization and increasing concerns related to health, safety, and environment, and now the pandemic is again taking a big toll on the employment, mental health is again one of the challenging thing. And I think we even fail to address it for good top management people. So I don't think even we have reached the stage that we can take care for the junior engineers or for the workmen. So how we are trying to address this? Do you have anything in mind for that as well?
Yes, actually, I'm very glad that you raised this point. I was hoping to cover this in the podcast. Because of the pandemic, we have all realized the importance of mental health, but we often forget that these laborers are also prone to this illness. And considering the work environment that they are even more prone than us. According to one research that we found, the workers falling in the age range of 24 to 40 are highly susceptible to psychological illness and are in need of regular counseling. And hence, it becomes our duty to provide them with good, healthy habits and maintain the hygiene of the site so that their health is not compromised during the work. There was also one research that identified some seven main psychological issues that is faced by majority of the workers. Two or three obvious being the substance abuse disorders, claustrophobia, and sleep disturbances. In order to, solve, I think mental health is a very complex illness. And while I'm not very equipped to answer how do you deal with it, I think if there were more mental health programs, how we have awareness spreading programs for HIV and AIDS, we need those kind of programs monthly to be conducted on site to make them understand, first of all, what mental health is and how that affects the health of a person and what are the consequences of that. I think those programs could go a long way towards a better welfare.
Khushi, I totally agree with you. Like, we know how on large scale projects, toolbox talks and stuff like this carried out periodically. Can you imagine if the programs that how you are suggesting, if mental health schemes or programs were periodically conducted, can you imagine how much increase in productivity and how much the boost and morale of these laborers would increase? Wouldn't it be a really good thing if that happened?
So it would be very interesting to see how they take forward such initiatives on project site. Because after a point, if you don't have creative content and if you don't have activities, and even time is a big concern on construction site. Even I remember going for a toolbox, the time designated for those events are hardly 10 to 15 minutes or max to 30 minutes. And those are very intense discussions talking about today's work and we are going to take it forward, safety related aspects. So taking out time for this little extra activities is again a pain, and not every employer would be happy to invest time in such initiatives. But it would be very interesting to see how you guys can take it forward and looking forward to it.
Coming
Yes, that is lot of discussions going around workers' welfare, and I look forward to it. How you guys put forward this. So, any concluding remarks from your side?
Yeah, I just like to mention that as the part of this research that we have taken up, what we're trying to establish here is that we're trying to bridge a gap between the laborers and the stakeholders, like by trying to identify the problems that each of these face at ground level, and we want to help them create a proper work environment for both of these parties.
And I'll just like to add one more thing, that there are many schemes provided by government for the labor welfare. We have mentioned who can apply the eligibility criteria and details of the schemes on our page ftsept_ug. You guys can get the details of it from there. We are also celebrating our Engineers Day on 26 September, 10 o'clock. If you want to join in and learn more about the labor welfare and construction sites, the link for the same would be available on the page. I'll repeat, at the rate ftsept_ug. And before we conclude, I would just like to give a really big thanks to the entire ACAD team who helped in the literature study and forming this entire report and helping us script this podcast and everything. And obviously, PD for giving us this immense, incredible opportunity to inviting us to his podcast.
Thank you, PD.
Thank you guys for sharing your insights on labor welfare and wish you all the luck for the future endeavors. I'm positively looking forward to see where you take forward this research. Hope all of you will act very sensibly on your projects in coming days and implement the findings from this year and the previous years as well. So that's it for now, guys. See you in the next episode.
Bye, guys. Wishing you a great Happy Engineers Day.
Bye, guys. See you all on 26 September.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Conversations with Reinforced Engineers podcast. Hope you found value in the discussion and do tune in for next episodes. And in case if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for updates on future episodes. Thank you once again and have a great day.